Welcome to Legacy of Luxury. So another one of an episode we were going to do later. Well, we're going to talk diamonds today, but there's a story and a reason we are, and we're going to approach this a little differently and kind of tell some crazy stories about diamonds, because I feel like to the masses, they think engagement rings and maybe the Hope diamond here, but there's so many crazy stories, and I bet you, Jaron, you and your family, your dad, you've heard them growing up. So before we get to that, let's talk about why we're doing this. Talk a little bit about what you got in front of you and why it is so special.
Yeah, well, Nick, it's not easy to get you off topics. Yesterday, I walked in with a diamond that I, think is super special. And I think you even saw it. Like, I'm excited about a diamond.
Yeah,
and
for
you're
sure.
like, well, shit, Jaron, like, you see diamonds every day.
Yeah.
What's so special about this diamond?
Yeah, and it was like his nips were hard when he walked in here. Hard as the diamond.
A 10 on the most scale of hardness.
A 10 on the scale of hardness for his nips for this one. But and again, I as a layman, the way you explained it, percentage-wise, we're talking like the top 0.001% of diamonds here. And go into it a little bit why it's so special.
Sure. So this diamond right here, emerald cut diamond, 2.73 carats, E-color, so colorless, flawless. Okay, great. Even that would be impressive, right?
Amongst itself.
But I've been spoiled. I've been doing this a long time. My dad's been in the business a long time. Seeing a flawless diamond.
Yeah, they happen.
It happens.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it happens all day long.
Yeah.
And it absolutely is an investment grade stone, being just flawless itself, right? So nothing going on in here, no imperfections. Now, usually comes with a GIA certificate, like all of our diamonds do. And it says right here, I'm reading the back of it for those of you that are watching here, and flawless, excellent, no fluorescence, chef's kiss.
Everything.
Okay? But what makes it special, it comes with another certificate from GIA, which is pretty cool. And basically, this certificate is saying that it is a Type 2A diamond, which is, like we just said, less than 2% of all the rough coming out of the earth is a Type 2A rough. So this is going to be as rare of carbon as you can find.
Got it. So this is the chemical composition.
In the galaxy.
The chemical composition of it.
Yes.
So it's mostly carbon. It is pure, in essence. As pure as it comes. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why you'll see that Type 2A is pretty much going to come in colorless diamonds and flawless and internally flawless diamonds, because it's just such a pure rock coming out of the ground. It'd be somewhat counterintuitive.
You still have to cut it. You still have to do all of the crazy things. So Type 2A doesn't always translate to flawless and perfect.
No.
So this is the perfect storm of the two things coming together.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Which is why it's just so rare. So this diamond, everyone's heard of the Hope diamond, I think.
Yep.
The Hope diamond is Type 2A. It's why it's one of the most well-known diamonds, because of its size, but also because of its purity. The investment, when people talk about investment, like you and I have talked before, and we like to bullshit around, like, hey, does De Beers, is it really rare? Are they holding back diamonds?
Sure.
Do they flood the market?
Sure.
They not?
And that's a big thing now, is that artificial supply demand curve. Watchmakers do it. We know it. Rolex has been doing it forever. If you can not have anyone know how much supply is out there, it is easier to regulate demand. It goes bad sometimes, because then all of a sudden you're stuck with too much supply, but yes.
Yeah, but the reason why this makes me excited is because this truly is supply and demand at its truest sense.
Yeah.
There is just not supply out there.
The earth is not making them.
Correct.
The earth is not making them, and it would be, if let's say we took all of them out of the earth right now, it would take tens of thousands of years to make more of them, just because of the process of the carbon and the pressurization.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. So speaking of the Hope diamond, I got some pretty crazy stories about diamonds here. So let's start with the Hope diamond. So deep blue diamond, it says, infamous for its alleged curse. Of course, it has a curse on it. It originated from the Kalor mine in India, passed through the hands of King Louis the 14th, a couple other American heiresses. But legend has it that every owner suffered misfortune or death when they had it, including beheadings in the French Revolution and financial ruin. Today, it's in the Smithsonian, which ironically, I was valeting in D.C. once, and I got surprisingly close to it while the museum was closed without even being background checked. So either they got either it's really cursed and they just wanted me to touch it and die immediately. I don't know.
So it's not like a fake Hope diamond and you have the Hope diamond, right?
Well, not that I know of. I don't think I was smart enough at that age to be stealing anything from anywhere. All right, so let's do one more. I'm going to do...
It's like
Ocean's Nick.
Whatever it was, 13 or 14.
The great mogul, the Vanishing Giants, discovered in the 17th century in India. We got a theme here, India. 787 carat diamond was given to Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, the builder of the Taj Mahal. Nice little snippet right there. It was later shown to a French traveler, but after the Persian invasion of Delhi, it vanished without a trace. Some believe it was recut, but no one knows what happened to a 787 carat diamond.
Where did it go?
Where did it go? Did we cut that diamond to have this right here? The world may never know. So, all right, so we talked about, like, obviously the allure of them is there. Nothing worth something doesn't have some crazy backstories, right? Every one of these, whether it's the Illuminati owning Rolex, like whatever the stories are, that's where this comes from. Talk a little bit about, as a kid growing up, early memories of your dad talking about diamonds, because I'm sure, like you said, he sees them every day, so it took something special to really talk about it. Talk about those and talk about some of the crazy things you've seen since you've taken the business over in the past, 10, 15 years or so.
For sure. So, I mean, one of the awesome stories that, he always came back home with, right, from his trips overseas when he would go and buy rough. And now that I've gotten into the business and I've seen a box of rough, he always just said, "Oh, I bought a box today." Bought a box today. What is a box?
Yeah.
What does that even mean? Is it cardboard? What is going on here? Come to find out later. And I was just a kid. We didn't ask too many questions, right? My dad also would look at you like, don't ask about the box.
Yeah. You don't want to know about the box.
You don't want to know.
Freaking 7. You don't want to know what's in the box.
You
don't want to know what's in the box. What's in the box?
And, getting into the business, it's like, oh my goodness. It's just these rough diamonds. They don't look pretty.
Yeah.
They don't look good. And, oh, by the way, the box was $2.5 million. Oh, shit. Okay.
And I'm traveling around with it in the airport, 80s.
Yeah.
But there's no TSA. There's no anything. Unbelievable.
That's right. There are people, and you need to know who to give certain things to certain people.
Got it.
Especially in the Russian markets and things of that nature.
It.
So some crazy stories on that and getting in and out of airports. And
I believe it.
I don't know if I can really get into that on the show.
Yeah.
But, the idea, though, of these rocks and that didn't even look pretty, and they weren't even ready. And how we do it now, right, is, we'll buy a box of rough and we'll say, okay, just ship it to Israel. We'll cut it there, then ship it over here. No big deal. And you just leave a couple $1,000,000 with somebody and you're like, all right, they'll take care of it.
Yeah, and I just read, actually, so the first official article that I saw on, like, big name news was about diamonds. And it said that the path they travel is so complex and complicated that a tariff in any one of those places will throw the whole chain off and could actually increase the prices by three times what the actual tariff is, because they're traveling so much. Because once infrastructure is made, if you break that chain, not everybody has the tech. India doesn't have the technology to mine them, cut them, put them out, market them all together. It's such a big web that's been created.
For sure. Listen, it's going minimum through 3 countries when we're talking about the States here, right? And so it's really something very interesting. You can be talking about 4 and 5 before it gets to the end country.
And the argument is, when is it a stone and when is it a product? Right? When it's uncut, yes, I understand that it is actually something of value, but it is still, in theory, a commodity until it is cut. Like, aluminum is not worth anything until they process the alumina to make aluminium. But it's not anything until they do that. So that's part of the argument.
For sure. And for us in the commercial trade, it's like, when does it become for us? Because we can only use a polished diamond. Right. We're not in the industrial trade. We're not, using it to cut other things.
Right. Laser cutting, diamond cutting.
That also comes into the tariff conversation. But, going back to my dad and, like, when those diamonds were cut and when they came into the store, I remember being here when I was 16, 17 years old. I was in high school, and my dad opened up the box. And
I need that one to impress Becky, the nicest Jewish girl at the temple, and I need to impress her.
Dad,
they train them early, especially the Jewish. They train them early. That I know from my time in Long Island.
Her dad owns, the Knicks. Let me go.
There it is. Give her that 1 carat little wiener stone, uncut. Yeah.
And I'm hearing these noises over at the desk. Amazing. I'm like, what is going on over there, right?
Yeah.
And it was just the process, right, that he had bought these ugly rocks, to be quite honest with you, right? Spent a couple $1 million on them, but now here they're arriving in their polished state, in this beautiful look, and cut to perfection. I mean, that's what his whole shtick was here, right? Is that, and that's what this diamond is. This shows you, not to get on a tangent, but
this whole show is tangents. Don't worry
about
it.
You're right. Tiffany's, Harry Winston, Graf, all of these stores have the best diamonds in the world.
Yeah.
Because they are so picky.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think, oh, that's the only place you can get them.
Yeah.
Well, no, I've got one right here in my hand.
Yeah.
So it's really, what his whole story was is that when he got this rough, he took so much time on the front end to cut them to perfection. And when he saw them, I mean, I don't think he was that excited when I was born. But when these diamonds came through and they were born,
I can have more of you. I can't make more of these.
It was a really cool moment for me. And I saw he didn't love running a business. He loved running the diamond business.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to see. I think, what do they say? If you love what you do, you've never worked a day in your life. And
yeah.
I think, as hard as my father worked, I don't think he ever felt that way, because he loved his diamonds.
So talk about, now let's kind of fast forward to now. Like, let's talk about being the wholesaler and people coming in and literally, and I've seen it, like coming in with suitcases of diamonds and trying to sell them. And I don't want to say there's fraud, but like, everyone thinks the things they own are the greatest. Like, if someone had said to your dad that diamond he looked at was not flawless, he'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Get out of my office.
Right.
Like, so because you take a personal attachment, it's a psychological thing. It has nothing to do with being mischievous or devious, but talk about when people come in here. Talk about how discerning you have to be into picking out which diamonds eventually make it to the floor. Talk about the international trade, how you and Rami, because I have to imagine from where you're sitting, that's such a big part of the business, but it's part that's often overlooked because of all the other logistical challenges with running a modern business.
Yeah, so I mean, we're never doing anything, we need a 2-carat, let's just get one, right? That's never happening. So like you just said, we're going to be extremely picky. We're going to look through 15 of the exact same 2 carats before we pick one for stock.
Yeah. And a lot of this there's got to be some level of subjectivity, right? Like, you're picking diamonds that you believe. I know there's objective, I know there's certifications, but there's still difference. There's still subjectivity here.
You couldn't be more spot on. So the GIA is a guide for us.
Yeah.
They're humans. When I was in GIA, I was there in the lab, seeing it all happening. It's just, it's Jaron Solomon sitting there grading diamonds. So it's really something that we're looking at and saying, oh, wow, is that the best SI1? Is that the best SI2? And we're not going to get nerdy on diamonds in this episode.
Yeah.
But it is something that we're really looking at hard and making sure we're picking the absolute cream of the crop, because that's what Solomon Brothers is.
And look, we have the advantage of being so established for so long and having a wholesale company that owns so many diamonds that you're able to be discerning, right?
Yeah.
We're not some little ragtag bunch that's selling diamonds as we buy them and give them to people. And
so let's talk about that for a quick second, because that's pretty.
I set them up perfectly. We didn't even plan this.
So that's pretty hysterical, right? The wholesale business, and I can talk about it now because it's not being done as much anymore, but a little bit. I also don't want people to go find wholesalemen and hit them over the head. So please.
Yeah.
But the hysterical way of traveling with diamonds, right? I mean, they're small, right? I don't know if our viewers can see this on the screen, but this is how diamonds come. I mean, I remember my dad would just say, take a look at that one. Take a look at that one. Right?
And you could be throwing around 50 grand like it's not like it's nothing. Well, it's like chips in Vegas.
What do we just throw around? 4-carat radiant, $32,000. There you go. Funny, and in the wholesale trade that you're sitting across the table with people.
And they're all characters. I mean, from everyone I've walked in here, some of the most I love our buddy who brings a tiramisu every time. Just characters.
What I have for you today, Nick, what I have.
Oh, and the way
the
way they talk, you hear in literally 6 seconds later, fuck you, yeah. Dude, how's your mom? It's just a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, it's you don't want the diamond, don't take the diamond, but it's a great price. No, I mean, it's a fun business, it's a trust business, but because we're trained and we know what we're looking at, we don't necessarily have to listen to the person across the table.
Right.
They don't necessarily have to listen to us,
Right.
but our customers that we are selling to on the wholesale side are really cool customers in the Alabamas and Louisianas and Mississippis, and they put a lot of trust in my dad, in ISL, our wholesale company, and they go to the table and say, I need a 2-carat, and they say, what do you have? And they're trusting us that we're giving them a nice 2-carat or a nice 1-carat.
And I bet you, based on what I know about commodities and these industries as a whole, they've worked with so many bad actors. That honesty and integrity, once you get it, is really hard to lose. And it's important to you and it was important to your dad. Because again, in any of these industries, you can just be a company and change company names. You can be incorporated in Benin. There's so many ways to get around this because there's so much money at stake.
Right.
So that integrity and trust, I mean, it's almost like being part of the family. You have to be that way.
It has to be, and it's imperative. And with such a blind item, it's so difficult. And the trust factor, I mean, I think that's, if someone asks me hey, what are you most grateful for about taking over this company and what did your dad do? 100% unequivocally building trust with our consumer base on the wholesale and the retail side, because you have to have trust.
Yeah, and I think it's unbelievable because it's something everyone says. So there's a lot of research being done now about when the markets switch from market forces, which is money, to social forces.
Right.
And when things are booming, that's the State Farm, like a good neighbor. They want to be there for you.
Yeah.
Customer service is great. For the record, we're going back to a market economy. Has anyone ever able to get on the phone? Nobody cares about you. It's a garbage experience everywhere you go, and they're trying to charge money. So we've switched back to market forces now. So what I have found is that trust is that much more important, but also people's guard is up so much higher. And we have put so much bureaucracy in place to stop you from doing the action. How many times have you just slammed your phone on the ground and say, fuck it, I'm just going to eat the $100. I don't have time for this. And like they do it on purpose. And even we had that mistake. We wanted to put AI in place to answer the phone.
did.
And it does a great job, but it was impeding the process of a human being get on the phone. So we immediately canceled it. And like, look, I don't think anyone's going to hold it against us to try to be better customer service, but you have to walk that line of like, if it's not ready, it's not ready. If it's not perfect, it's not perfect. So
And the intention is everything, right? We did it with the intention of trying to make the customer experience better. And the moment that we saw it wasn't making the customer experience better, we nixed it.
Well, it wasn't the moment because the company we were dealing with had a helpline across the country that we had to get a hold of 6 different people to finally get something, even though I used 17 exclamation points. But Colrell does a great job.
As soon as we could.
As soon as we could. All right, so let's finish with this. So talk a little bit about, again, this is so subjective. Everybody's got a favorite kind of diamond. But talk a little bit about which 2 or 3 you like the best and why. And this is not a sales pitch. I'm not saying for the customers. I'm saying which ones you like the best and what about them. I've seen a lot of these east-west, the ones that are kind of elongated and laid out that way now, just for a little bit of different. And I know styles and trends, but there's also probably some that have just been eternal. So talk a little bit about which cuts you like the best and which cuts tend to lend themselves the most to these type of flawless and really nice high-end diamonds.
Yeah. So a lot there to unpack because I'm pretty passionate about the topic. Good. But I'll stick with the...
So we'll do a whole episode about this. So you're now teasing a future episode.
For a jeweler, round diamond is always going to be their favorite. Not necessarily in look, but I should say to a diamond guy, right?
Okay.
Maybe to owners of other retail companies, this doesn't matter so much. But to a wholesale diamond manufacturer in our background.
Is that the simplicity of it? Is that the...
It's the symmetry of it, right?
Yeah.
So, again, we're not going to nerd out on diamonds, but the GIA only gives a cut grade on a round diamond. And that is because we can tell that if it is perfect or not. In an emerald cut, this beautiful, flawless emerald cut I have here, I think a 145 ratio is about perfect, but some people might want a 150 to make it longer and narrower, or a 130. We're not going to go so deep into this, but the answer to the question is a round diamond has a perfect table, has a perfect depth, has a perfect crown, has a perfect pavilion, has a perfect lower half. I know I'm talking gibberish.
Yeah.
But that is why, and we can get the perfect light performance, because what does every girl want to see? They want to see sparkle.
Yeah.
Of course, we want to get as big as we can, and we can. We had someone in here the other day, and one of the sales folks in there was like trying to figure out what they were looking for, and the lady kept saying, "I want sparkly. I want the nicest diamond." And so the salesperson thought, it needs to be colorless. It needs to be flawless, and it was like, no, it needs to be big, but a diamond can't just be big. It has to sparkle. If it doesn't sparkle, all bets are off.
It actually draws more attention to the non-sparkleness the bigger it is.
Right.
If it's bigger and it doesn't sparkle, then you're supposed to catch from across the room on a good diamond, and a little one even, you can catch that sparkle.
Yes.
If it's big and doesn't have that, and that's probably the internal colors and the angles and everything.
Well, it's really fascinating because I don't want to get too technical, so I'm going to try and simplify.
I don't even know what's going to happen when we do the technical episode. I'd probably get people to look for like 3 minutes, or we'll put like a talking head over him or something to make it.
But a 6-carat piece of rough, right?
Yeah.
Can be cut down to a 4-carat, can be cut down to a 3,
Sure.
can be cut down to a 2.
Sure.
But
you probably make more money that way.
You want to be
smaller.
You want to be economical, right?
Yeah.
So you actually want to find out, and again, we can do this on a later episode to actually. I mean, this is what we do. This was our strategic advantage in what we did. We made our money on the front end, never on the consumer. Actually, we made it on the market.
Got it.
So we were buying at $5 when everyone else was buying at 10. And so that's really how we became who we are.
Got it.
And
that's more like a commodity trader, right? You're hedging your bets against future. You're trying to buy low, sell high. I mean, that saves the consumer money.
It is, but it's very technical because someone that would take that 6-carat and cut it down to a 4 when they would have made more money in the market, so you just got to figure out. So what happens on a big diamond sometimes is people don't cut it to perfection. They cut corners to keep the size.
Got it.
And they're preying on people that are just saying out there, well, I just want a big diamond. Well, we're here for you, and we've got them, and we had it the other day for this customer, but I refuse, and my father refused to bend on the actual cut. So we're going to cut it so that it has the optimal sparkle. So that's why a round diamond
foregoing
lends to that.
the raw material to cut it because you're cutting off of it. So in theory, if it's 6, to make it perfect, you got to go to 5. Some people will just keep it at 6 and cut and just sell it as a 6 carat. And it's not being deceitful because again, it's subjective. But what you're trying to do is say to make this the best diamond for this end consumer, it should be a 5 carat diamond cut this way,
right?
Not a 6 cut with cutting corners.
And then it gets far more complicated because now you got to figure out what shape to cut it in. So
certain diamonds lend themselves. So you have an
what shape was the rough?
Wow.
And so
the grain and everything. Oh my goodness.
Because maybe out of a 6 carat piece of rough, just to continue on that analogy, you maybe could get 2 carat square stones to equal the 4. And is that better for you than a 4 carat 1 stone?
Let me ask you this question because we're going to end here because there's so many more ways we can go with this.
Yeah, too many, sorry.
But have we allowed, are we using computers? Are we letting a computer scan a diamond and show the optimal way to cut it? Has AI come into this? Are we doing that
We
now?
are now. We are now.
Does that help or hurt the industry? What do you think?
It helps everyone else.
It's a guide.
It hurt us a little bit because it was our strategic advantage that, hey, you were doing this all by hand.
Got it.
You had a marker. You were marking
Got it.
where the cutter needed to go in. So it was just fascinating.
But I'm sure you also, if you use AI as the guide, you can see what the gaps are in the AI and you can use your eye to adjust, which still gives you a competitive advantage because you've seen it the other way. But now 2 generations from now, there's not going to be a human being on earth that's cutting it by hand.
Not cutting it by hand, and also when they're analyzing it.
Yeah.
Right? They're just putting it on a machine and saying, that question, do I cut it from a 6 carat to 2 carats or 1 4 carat? That's answered by the machine now.
Yeah, and you can probably put into the machine, is it for optimal cut or optimal money? And it can probably give you 2 different models of how to lay it out.
That will be, yes, that is coming.
Yeah, and
that
based on your preferences, and then the machine will learn on your preferences. So you'll just put rough on there. It'll be doing it. It'll probably get a machine that'll scan it and cut it for you overnight at some point. I mean, like, these things are coming. This is how this works.
Laser cutting is here, and it's coming in a bigger and bigger way. The only reason why it hasn't taken over is because, even though you think lasers will be perfect, there's little things that can be done while you're cutting and say, oh, you know what? I could actually save that. God forbid, you should cut that and it becomes $3.95 instead of $4.
Got it.
So there's still a little nuance in it, but it will get figured out.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think that's the future of diamonds is probably going to be a whole crazy episode in itself. But all right, so we covered a lot. I think quick recap. We have a killer diamond right here. This is one of a kind that you don't get. We do have pricing power to be able to get this, but this is a passion point, as you can tell. I mean, Jaron, we literally sat and talked about the rest of the year in marketing. He looked at me like I had 6 heads, just said, let me get out of this office, left, and then came back in for longer and tell me about this diamond. So it gives you an idea of the passion that goes behind it. And just the nature of it, it's crazy, but it's also, this is that emotional connection that has made diamonds something that are so sought after, which is also why we buy diamonds back at full price, because we know this backstory is built and they will be something that will be in the lexicon of human beings forever, which is a very powerful tool, I think.
Yeah, and listen, call me sappy for buying into it, and I know I have a huge vested interest in this. These diamonds, they're special, they're rare. There's not a lot of them. We will be going through them. Someone was saying, take the Australian mine, that's completely dry now. The deposit's done, right? So you're not even getting diamonds out of Australia anymore. And so these things actually are rare. And when you give it to your loved one as a gift, as an engagement ring, it does have a symbol of forever. And it does have a symbol of rarity, and that she or he is special, whatever it may be. I don't care. The point being is that it is a moment in time that you're taking something that took 1 billion years to get to the surface. You're cutting it to perfection. Now I'm able to see them give it to their loved one.
I love it.
It's just a special moment, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And the diamond truly is an incredible way to be a symbol of love and a symbol in the family. You read a couple of just crazy stories. Diamonds that have been passed down for so many years and ends up in the Smithsonian.
And countries like criminals and kings, and probably one and the same in most places. No, it's fascinating, dude. All I'm going to say is that it's a shame that the way we are. When you come of age to be 25 is when you have the least money, but you're buying something so important. So these backstories don't matter, right? Like when you finally get the girl that wrangles you in and to get married, you're more concerned with, oh my God, am I really giving up my freedom and the rest of my life than you are, I have to make this diamond the most special thing. And what I encourage people, get in again, don't even shop with us. Don't buy a diamond online. If it is something with so much value, go touch it, feel it, look into it, ask questions. And hopefully this education, not even about the technical stuff, but just about some of this backstory stuff, will encourage you to do that. So you've been listening to Legacy of Luxury, and we will catch you next time.